This is the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, and today I'm going to give you my takeaways from Inside Retail Live. Welcome to the Bringing Business to Retail podcast, where I, Selena Knight, share strategies, interview retail revolutionaries, and delve into the minds of e-commerce experts to help you grow a profitable, independent retail or e-commerce business. If you're stuck in a rut, or if you feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've overachieved all of the things that you've set out to and are wondering what to do next, or how do I even make this better? I know that you're going to love today's episode. If you're stuck in a rut, feel like business is way harder than it should be, or you've achieved all of the things that you set out to and are wondering what next, or how do I even make this better, then I know that you're going to love today's episode. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode. Can you hear in my voice? It's just a little bit scratchy and gravelly. Do you remember that, if you're old enough, that Friends episode where Phoebe got a cold and she had like really sexy, deep voice? People were saying that to me on the weekend, that I had that kind of sexy, deep, gravelly voice thing going on. Now, I feel like I'm at the tail end of a cold, and after lots of talking at Inside Retail Live, I just have a gravelly voice. It's not sexy in any way, shape or form. As you probably know, if you follow me on social media or if you listen to the podcast, last week I was lucky enough to speak at Inside Retail Live, which was here in Australia, and it was loads of different people from all different types of retail, from enterprise right through to smaller niche style brands, from product creators right through to tech and innovators. So we really did get the gamut of everything that's happening inside of retail right now. Now, often I go to these events by myself, but this time round, I took my Chief Creative Officer, Elizabeth, along for the ride, and we had a blast. I mean, there's the thing about retailers, when we get together, we have loads of fun. And we talked to so many people, hence why I have the loud voice. And here's something else that I learned. Retailers like to dance. Not something I'd really thought about, but at the awards dinner, which I was lucky enough to be a judge of, and congrats to all the finalists and all the award winners. You guys are doing amazing things in retail right now. But once the awards dinner, the awards part was through, bang, the music came on, the whole room was empty. All of the tables, because the dance floor was off to one side, all the tables were empty and everyone was on the dance floor. So clearly, I know that there's a lot going on in retail right now, and we are going to be talking about those things over the next few weeks here on the podcast. But I feel like if you weren't at that kind of event, if you haven't been able to let your hair down, I'm giving you permission right now. This weekend, I want you to go and let your hair down, go to the beach, go for a dance off, go and just hang out and laugh, see a comedy show, go see a movie, but do something for yourself, something that actually just takes you away from work, takes you away from the pressures, and just lets you have fun, because you need to be having fun. There's no other reason for having your own business. You need to be able to control what you do in your life. And if your business is taking control of you, it is time to change things around. And maybe some of the takeaways from the event might help you do that. Now, I wasn't quite sure whether I should actually do this episode. I mean, do you guys really care? However, I went back through the stats, because when I go to a big event, I quite often do come back and do these takeaway style podcasts. And you know what? I can see the stats, and you guys love these episodes. Now, maybe it's because you just want to keep up with what's happening. Maybe you want to listen to my funny dance-off stories, and I do have a couple. Or maybe you're just taking this opportunity to know that if you can't be there, you want to know what is actually going on so that you can take what's happening and implement some small part of that in your business. It doesn't matter the reason why. You guys like it, so I am here. I have notebooks full of notes, but I'm going to condense it down into, 25, 30 minutes and give you as much as I possibly can. But before I jump into them, because you know that my brain operates in bullet points, and so I'm just going to rattle them off. But one of the things I just want to point out is seeing all the different scales of businesses, from people who just are having, I say just, I don't in any way, shape or form mean just, from people who are doing kind of mid six figures right up through to enterprise customers like Domino's Pizza were there. In fact, I was sitting at the table with them before they disappeared onto the dance floor. But we're talking everybody, every niche was represented and every sort of level of business was represented. And here's the thing, guys, it did not matter who I spoke to. Every single retailer was struggling with the exact same thing, just at different scales. So if you've been thinking, if I just get to six figures, or if I just get to seven figures, or if I just get to eight figures, all my problems will change. I'm here to tell you that does not happen, which is why you have to put systems in place. It's why you have to focus on the weak points in your business. It's why you have to have a plan and you have to take specific action and not be willy-nilly, because you have to step up and be the CEO. Someone has to run the business. And 9 times out of 10, that someone is you. So what are you doing? So I'm gonna rattle off a whole bunch of stuff that is trending right now in retail, but I don't want you to go and adopt all of it. I just want you to listen and think, what one thing could I implement right now in my business? It may not even be something that I say. However, it might just spark that little trigger that where you think, hey, actually, that would make a big difference. Now, here's something you probably weren't expecting me to say, but retail is not all the doom and gloom that everybody is making it out to be. In fact, some of the niche providers were up 30 to 100% in revenue, the ones that I spoke to. That is huge. Now, I'm going to talk about why those businesses were increasing revenue when lots of other people weren't. But the fact is, don't take what everybody else is saying and use it to justify your business. I want you to just tune all that out and focus on your business. But the people who are struggling, the brands that are struggling, are the ones that don't have a connection. I like to say they're just stores or just shops, not brands. And that's what I'm going to jump into today, because that was key and it was recurrent right through every single, they call them tracks. So there's different tracks. There was 4 different tracks that you could go through. There was the customer, there was the workplace, there was retail management, which is where I spoke, and then there was tech and innovation. So each one of those tracks, Elizabeth and I broke up and we wrote loads of notes about what was happening, but it didn't matter which track we were in, these same things kept repeating themselves. And I'm going to share with you what they are. The first one was the first person who we went and saw, the first keynote, was this amazing comedian who worked with an agency talking all about brand personas. And Angela Meyer from Double Denim, that's the agency that was presenting, was really passionate about women in spending. And I don't have the stats right now. I will try and dig them out and put them into the show notes. But women are responsible for around 80% of worldwide spending. We're talking trillions of dollars. And Angela was talking about how customers want an experience that reflects their values. So here we go. Customers, experience, values. 3 key words for you to take away from here. Because when we want those customers to come back and shop with us, and I've been saying this for a very long time, what I built my whole brand on, they want an experience. Now, it doesn't matter if you're a convenience store, and like a 7-Eleven, the experience that customers want from you is convenience. It's having the thing that they want right now when they want it and not having to go searching for it. That's what you need to identify in your business. What is the experience that a customer wants? So this is the key quote I wrote down from Angela. Customers want an experience that reflects their values. So thinking about that in your business. What are your values to begin with? Because you should have them. And are you giving customers the experience that actually says when they consume your brand, whether it's whether they wear your products or whether they use your products that you sell, is it telling the rest of the world how they feel about themselves? because that's what our values are. As aspirational human beings, we want other people to see us in a specific way. And we always are striving to be better versions of ourselves. Now, this doesn't always have to mean about having more physical stuff. But think about all those brands that are social enterprises. We associate with them because we want to make the world a better place because we're aspirational, but also because we want other people to see us in a specific way. And that is that I'm here to make the world a better place. So that brings me on to my second quote that I wrote down, and that was from Yasmin Grigor-Lunis. Now, I know last week's podcast episode, the audio wasn't all that fantastic, but OMG, I listened to her session and I just had to share it with you. So if you haven't listened to it, when you're in a quiet room, because as I said, the audio isn't fantastic because we did just record that live, no special microphones or anything like that. Her message was so powerful. Now, Yasmin has a brand called The World's Biggest Garage Sale, and she basically takes all of this stock that other people it's sitting in warehouses, they can't get rid of it, and she goes and sells it and gives the money to not-for-profits. And what they're doing for the economy is just multi-tiered. First of all, they're giving those goods another use, so they're not going into landfill. Second, they're making people feel good about themselves. They're making suppliers feel good that their products aren't going to landfill, but also making customers feel good because they've got a bargain, but also that they're supporting a sustainable enterprise because the money then goes to charities. So as a customer, you have this multi-tiered well of feelings about when you buy with a brand like The World's Biggest Garage Sale. Now, recently they did a pop-up with all of these shoes from Shoes of Prey. Now, if you follow Shoes of Prey, you know that they went downhill, but this was before that happened. They actually had this warehouse full of returned goods because Shoes of Prey were doing custom-made shoes. And if for whatever reason they were returned, maybe they weren't the right size or the right color, they just sat in a warehouse. So Yasmin and her team actually opened a pop-up shoe shop in a shopping center with lots of assistance from the shopping center itself and from other brands to make this happen. And in this shoe shop that had closed down, they opened a pop-up shoe shop and they sold all of these amazing shoes. Some of these shoes retailed for like $600 and $700. We saw pictures, and I'm not even a shoe person, but I was in shoe heaven. But they were all one-offs. So if it was there, it was there. If it wasn't, it wasn't. And they sold all of these shoes for $49. They sold over 2,000 pairs of shoes. And that money is going back into the community. Those goods have been taken out of the landfill, I was going to say supply chain, but out of the landfill journey. And everybody is winning. So Yasmin said, build purposeful connections. And that means actually getting together with your suppliers, with your customers, and building these connections that strengthen us as humans, but also strengthen communities and strengthen the environment and the globe. The all-encompassing, I'm just going to call it environment, because sustainability is here to stay. Now, I built my brand on sustainability over a decade ago when it wasn't a buzzword, when it wasn't a thing, but now it is a thing. And it is going to stay here. This is a repeating theme. All through last year I heard it, all through this year I hear it. Purpose and sustainability. So that brings me on to the next thing, which was from Zane Saber, from Mason D. Saber. Now, I'm sure that there is a very fancy way of saying that, but I'm not even going to pretend to know how to say it. Maison de Saber. You can have a laugh now. So Zane had a couple of quotes that I wrote down, and this all comes back to this purpose and sustainability and supply chain and communicating with your customers, building that community, which is, he was talking about how the focus is now turning to quality and longevity of products rather than fast fashion and fast moving consumer goods. So if you ever see FMCG, fast moving consumer goods, now there's always going to be a need for those products because people with lower spending budgets or who don't need a product for longevity, there's always going to be a pool of products in that fast turnover of goods. However, the focus is now turning into products that are going to be around for quite some time, and people are prepared to pay more for this. Here's this amazing turnaround. We're finally at this point where actually, especially women in that kind of 35 plus age group are prepared to spend money on products, particularly fashion products, fashion and beauty products that are going to go further, but also have that connection. So people are going to pay more if they know that the product is giving back. People are going to pay more if they know that they're going to get more than one season out of it. So it's up to you as the retailer to let your customers know how the products that you're selling are going to fulfill these needs in your customer. Because we are in the business of selling feelings. People buy your stuff for a reason. Now it's up to you to find out what that reason is, and then you need to cultivate that into your marketing. You have to dot it through your in-store experience and make sure that you're putting it in your online experience. So Zane also went on to say that the, in inverted commas, old school retail experience where we had services where people actually bothered to actually come and help us, great products, and that connection with your community, they haven't changed. People want that more than ever. In fact, people are craving that kind of experience. What you need to do is build that experience into both your in-store, if you have a bricks and mortar store, and your online experience. So if you don't know how to do that in your online experience, it is time to sit down and say, what do we value? What is important to our customers? What is the reason that we're here? And why do our customers want to associate with us? And then what do they want from us? What kind of products do they want? What kind of services do they want? Ask these questions, because when you ask these questions, you also build connection. You build that engagement with your customers. And everybody is searching for this all elusive engagement, and they're thinking that it's all on social media. The fact is, in person is always going to win out. And my second way of getting in touch with those people is via email. If you cannot get in their face, literally, get into their inbox and build that connection. Okay? All right, so build those connections with your customers and with other retailers and with other businesses. Give your customers a reason to shop with you. Focus on quality and longevity and service and product and connection. Now, before I jump into the next part, I just want to give you a little bit of an insight into how this can work, especially in an in-store environment. So if you have a bricks and mortar store. While we were in Melbourne, Elizabeth went to the Baird footwear shop. Now, I love Baird footwear, and Frankie for those who do not know, they are podiatrist designed, very funky shoes. We're not talking old lady shoes. In fact, the shoes that I wore on stage, which were heels that I walked around in all day and didn't get sore feet from, were actually Frankie 4 shoes. Now, again, this comes back to quality and longevity. A pair of those shoes, between $250 and $350. Now, I'm not prepared to pay that kind of money unless I know that I'm going to get quality and I know that I'm going to get, at least a couple of years out of it. I'm a bit of a tightwad when it comes to spending my money. So I want quality and I want longevity. And I know from these brands, that's what I'm going to get. So anyway, Elizabeth went to the Baird footwear shop. Now, it wasn't on a high street. It was down a little laneway, which is not uncommon in Melbourne. Melbourne is known for its laneways. But it wasn't the easiest shop to find. It wasn't a particularly big shop. However, she said, when I walked in, there were about 20 customers and there were 15 people serving. Now, any other shoe shop in the world, you're not going to get that ratio. That's like one salesperson for every 1.1 customers. So nearly every person in the store had their own sales associate. And you're probably thinking, how can they afford it? The first thing I think is, how can they not afford to do this? Because the average price of a pair of shoes is between $250 and $350. So if one person buys one pair of shoes, you have more than paid for your overheads. However, what you're giving people is the experience. And when you give that one-on-one experience, people are likely to spend more money. In that kind of situation, personally, I would spend more. I'd probably buy more than one pair of shoes because you've got somebody there helping you. You've got somebody listening to you. You've got somebody who's actually paying attention to what you're saying and is providing a transformation for you. They're actually solving a problem for you. And when you find somebody who does that, this is the thing about retail, right? So many people have lost that, especially in department and chain stores. This is where you have the opportunity to thrive. If you give that experience, customers will spend more money with you. Now, another store that we popped into was a fashion store, like a high-end, I say fashion store, a designer clothing store. And I saw a customer come in and she was talking about how she was going overseas, but she could only take carry-on baggage because she was going to be moving every second day. And she needed essentially a capsule wardrobe. She told the sales associate what she needed. And the sales associate said, if you come back in an hour, I'll have everything ready for you. And off she went. So, of course, we go over and we have our little bit of sticky beak and say, hey, will she actually come back? And the lady said, yeah, of course she will. And we said, but have you met this woman before? She's like, nope, never met her before at all. She goes, but we are known for being helpful. And so, of course, then the important part comes, how much money will this lady spend? And the sales associate said, if she buys half of what I put out, she'll spend about $2,500. We're like, wow. So what's your average order value? And it was something along the lines of $2,200. Crazy, right? I mean, whilst it was a higher end designer brand, we're talking $200 for a dress. Now, we're not talking Coco Chanel here. But think about that. If you can provide that to your customers, what is that going to do for your business? And this is one of the key things that retailers forget, and I'm talking about the bigger stores and the smaller stores, is that when things take a nosedive, when the economy takes a nosedive, the first thing to go is usually wages. But I want you to rethink that. Is that really the thing that you should be increasing money on? Should be diverting all your money, all your resources into marketing and customer experience? Just something to think about. Okay, with that, let me jump into the next couple of things that I wrote down from Inside Retail Live. These are a bit more tech and problem related. So the first one was from Angus McDonald from Barbecues Galore. Now, when I say barbecue here in Australia, that's a barbecue. In America, you guys would call this a grill. Okay, so we're talking about a grill. And Angus said, and this one, it was like mind-blowingly simple, but you hadn't really thought about it the way that he said it. And he was talking about how the tech innovation they'd had inside of their company, and he said, every tech rollout should always address a problem. Sounds simple. However, how many times have you put an app in place or changed a service provider or done something just because? And I know this happens all the time, and you're probably thinking, oh yeah, I remember that time when. So if you are going to invest the time and the money and the resources in changing out your tech infrastructure, your technology infrastructure, it should solve a problem. So identify the problem and make certain that this is going to be a solution to fix that. What is it going to improve? Is it going to streamline your systems? Is it going to improve the customer experience? Is it going to make you more money? Are sales an issue right now? So think about that before you next invest in some technology. And the next one from Angus was that you should always address a problem. He was talking a lot about problems. Always address a problem internally before rolling it out as a customer service focus. So, is this an issue inside of our business? Yes or no? If it is not, then do we need to be rolling it out? And the last nugget of gold that I'm going to share with you comes from Richard Fassioni from the Alcyon Group. And he said, sell the problem you solve, not the product. This is entirely what sales and marketing is made up of, especially marketing. Your customers have a problem, and it doesn't matter if that problem is, I'm thirsty and I feel like a Coke and I don't want to have to go to a supermarket, so I'm just going to go to a convenience store. That's the problem you're solving. Convenience. It doesn't matter if you are just a fashion store or just a homeware store. I would never say just in front of those. You are a homeware store who helps people transform their homes from drab to fab. People come to you for a reason. You have to identify what that reason is. Now, it can be a little bit tricky because sometimes customers tell you one thing, but actually the reason is something completely different. And I can tell you this from experience because sometimes we ask you guys these questions and you tell us one thing and then we provide it for you and you're not interested in it. So there's an old saying that says, sell them what they want, give them what they need. Sell them what they want, give them what they need, which means you have to be able to leverage what they think their problem is, and then the answer, the product that you're going to provide for them has to solve that problem. But you know in the back of your head what they truly need. So it just means getting a little bit creative with the way that you sell things and really looking at your customer, looking at your customer journey. If you've got an e-commerce store, looking at your predictive analytics, looking at those customer loyalty customers, seeing what they buy, when they buy, how they buy, why they buy. And sometimes just plain asking them. It's time to send out a survey. Ask your customers what it is that they want. Simple. It sounds so simple, but the thing is people aren't doing it. Retailers aren't doing it. And I'm talking retailers of all different shapes and sizes. So, in conclusion, purpose is still prevalent when it comes to why customers want to shop with you. And if you know that purpose, if you give customers a reason to shop with you beyond price and actually communicate that message, then you are going to end up as one of those niche providers who are increasing their sales rather than those really broad, mediocre stores who are struggling. Turn your focus to quality and longevity if that's what your customers are looking for. Give your customers the good old school retail experience. Great service, great product, build that connection. Make sure that when you roll out tech, it actually addresses a problem and you're not just doing it just because. And lastly, sell the problem that you solve, not the products that are in your range. Okay, I hope you've liked these key takeaways from Inside Retail Live. At the end of this month, I'll be heading over to the US to attend my most favorite conference in the world, Traffic and Conversion Summit, which is all about marketing, digital marketing. It's my nerdy passion, and I'll be over there for 3 days. Well, I'll be over there for a couple of weeks, but the actual conference goes for 3 days. And I'll make sure that I'll let you know what's happening, because what I find at that conference is it is really cutting edge. What they're doing in the US and quite often in the UK as well is far and away in advance. And the people who are at this conference are far and away in advance of what old school marketers are doing. And here's the thing, it doesn't matter if you can't be at the conference. Find ways to learn. And most importantly, get out from behind your computer and get out from behind your shop counter and actually go and talk to real life people. Big shout outs to Maxine from Brava Lingerie, who came and said hello to me at the event. She was also a finalist in the awards, so go Maxine. Keep up the great work, and I will see you back here next week, where we're going to be talking about leveraging e-commerce strategies for both on and offline retailers. You're going to love next week's episode. So I will see you next week, same time, same place. Bye. I hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Bringing Business to Retail podcast. You can find all of the show notes over at selinaknight.com. If you found something that you heard today particularly useful, I'd love it if you could leave me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. And of course, feel free to share this episode with someone that you think could benefit by listening to it. Want more retail biz strategies? You can watch the Bringing Business to Retail TV show, where each week I'll answer a question or provide you with a simple, actionable retail biz strategy that you can implement in your business right away. If you have a question or a guest, I'd love to hear from you. Drop my team an email at podcast@selinaknight.com, and I'll see you on the next episode. Have a great week.